Start then. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today on this special coffee hour edition. I am really excited to have with us Penelope Sucros. Did I say that right, Penelope?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make sure. And Penelope, I've known, I guess, had the opportunity to speak with quite some time ago when you were working on your book.
Right.
And I'm going to share that with folks because it's not often I get to speak with a famous author. But Penelope was a professor and then became a financial planner, but she's also an author of a book entitled Your Home Sweet Home. She's going to share a little bit about this, but what I love about what you are doing today is so important, just in terms of really thinking and talking with people about all aspects of planning for retirement. And I think, from our perspective, when we're thinking about this, Danielle Dennis, who's with us today, is co-hosting with me as one of our regional sales managers. Sue's our member and events coordinator, manages all of these things behind the scenes. But as we work with people, I think oftentimes, you're struck with how important the decision about joining Kendal at Home or making a plan for your future is. And one of the things you say in the very end of the book, you talk about thanking people for reading the book, but you say, for your sake, think through the issues and make the best decisions for you. Don't wait until circumstances take away your choices and make the decision for you. Decide, then go out and celebrate life. And I think that's been our philosophy at Kendal at Home for so long, is such an important decision. But once you make that decision, you have so many options right now when you're healthy and independent. And once you make that decision, the peace of mind that it gives you and those around you. We were just talking earlier today about giving that gift to your loved ones, knowing that they have a plan in place and that you will be supported as you age and should you become ill or need assistance. But that's just one piece of that retirement planning. So I'm going to turn it over to you to share a little bit more about yourself and all the incredible work you're doing today. And then I want to let our guests know that you can, at the bottom of your screen, or depending on where you have your toolbar, could be at the top, just click on the Q&A or the chat and enter any questions. Penelope's going to talk with us for a while, and then we are going to open it up to questions in the latter half of the program. So you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions and get some expert advice today as well. So Danielle and I are going to slip behind the scenes and we're going to turn it over to you, Penelope. So thank you again for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be able to meet each of you and to talk with folks who have taken the time today to listen to an idea that says, should I stay or should I go?
Absolutely.
How to stay in your home through your retirement. It's a major question. And when I do financial planning, which I actively do in all 50 states, is that people want to know, okay, the house is an asset, but do I stay there? If I'm going to move, how do I do that? Lots of questions, which is exactly why, as you said, I wrote the book, Your Home Sweet Home. The talk today is a little bit different in the sense that it's really just focusing on staying and going. It's not giving you all the options because we have only a short time together, but I'm thankful for the time that we have. So let me begin by first saying something that you might not be aware of. During the Civil War, it said that officers did not allow Union soldiers to sing a popular song because they feared it would incite desertion. The song was Home Sweet Home. It was written in 1823 and became very popular once it was available as sheet music. It's been recorded by many singers, including Bing Crosby, and its lyric captures a universal feeling. Be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. There's a gravitational pull to be home. Whatever home is, whatever home means, we want to stay there. That's because home is a place, home is a meaning. and home is an archive. First of all, home is a physical place that is comfortable and familiar. We like what is familiar. In addition, home means something. It symbolizes something about you. It's a tangible measure of financial success, status, and stability. It reflects your individuality through thousands of choices in design, color, and stuff. And third, home is an archive. Walking into a room may flood you with memories. It's as if the very walls have absorbed echoes and images, and at any moment, they may release them. Objects and pictures add their stories and remind you of relationships and events. Home connects you to your past. So you are all those other ages as well as the age you are now. So parting with your home might feel like giving up part of yourself. No wonder statistics tell us that most people want to stay at home. Wanting to stay at home is one thing, and being able to stay in your home may be quite another. You want to stay in your home, or in contemporary phrase, age in place. However, aging in place is not a risk-free choice. There are risks that you may not be aware of, and there are risks to moving to a different residence. What I know to be true is that the quality of life that you experience in retirement is directly linked to where you live. Let me say that again. The quality of life you experience in retirement is directly linked to where you live during retirement. Where you live during retirement matters. The decision to stay in your home or move has financial, physical, emotional, social, and psychological aspects. The decision to stay or go is complex. Let me share a story that shows the pull between staying at home and moving. Meet Charlotte and Ed. They lived in California. They thought that instead of visiting their children and grandchildren for just 1 week, a few times a year, it would be so much better to move near them and see them frequently. So they painted their house and invested thousands of dollars with the intention of putting the house on the market. But once they had invested and saw how beautiful the house was, they changed their minds and they decided they didn't want to sell. They stayed. A few years passed and the new was old and they were missing the children. So again, they decided they were going to put the house on the market. So they got rid of some of the clutter. And once they did that, the house felt roomy. They thought about how much they really like their familiar routines and their friendly neighbors. So once again, they stayed. But as they aged, it became harder for them to make the 3-day drive to see the kids. In addition, the repairs, the real estate taxes, and routine house maintenance were taking a bigger percent of their income. They had a decision to make. If they sold the house, they would have money to invest. If they didn't, they would continue to spend more money on the house and less on themselves, travel, and entertainment. Now in their late 70s, they once again decided to put the house on the market. It sold, and they moved into an apartment, which is about a 20-minute drive from their kids, not a 3-day trip. Now they have great amenities. Nearly everything they want is within walking distance. So they were able to sell their car and reposition their money so that they could have more fun and financial freedom. For Charlotte and Ed, their move has enriched their family lives and increased their cash flow. As you see in the story of Charlotte and Ed, a decision can take quite a while. You may sympathize with their process and still say you would not move. Let's look at what will help you stay in your home and some obstacles that you may need to deal with. These ideas can help you be prepared. Being prepared, having thought about options ahead of time, can be comforting and can reduce the stress that comes with sudden, unexpected events. The focus of this presentation is to fortify you with useful context for your decision whether it is to stay in place or to move. Let's start with the house as a physical space. Are you safe there? I'm not referring to crime statistics in your neighborhood rising, or to the sidewalks being cracked and uneven so that a nice walk on a good weather day becomes hazardous. Rather, I'm thinking about the story Terry told me about feeling unsafe. Terry invited friends over for dinner and was excited to make her favorite stew. As she began thinking about dinner, she realized that as much as she loved that particular stew, she had not made it for quite some time. Why? Well, as she thought about it, she realized what had happened. Her favorite stew pot was on a top shelf, and she needed a step stool to get it down. And she remembered the last time, as she stood on the stool and was pulling the pot off the shelf, as the weight of the pot shifted, her balance shifted, and she thought she was going to fall. It frightened her. She hasn't used that pot since. She used to be able to move that pot easily. The strength in her arms and her balance have changed subtly. She did not feel safe on that step stool in her own kitchen. Yeah, an easy solution is to store that favorite stew pot elsewhere. But as she makes that change, she's acknowledging that she is adapting her physical surroundings because of changes in her own physical ability. Unlike Terry, Margaret does not analyze her problem. Margaret was making breakfast in her kitchen when she realized that she had forgotten the package upstairs. She says to herself, well, I think that if I mail the gift tomorrow, we'll still get to Michael in time for his birthday. Why doesn't she just run upstairs and get the package and go to the post office? Maybe the operative word is run. Why is it that she doesn't want to make another round trip on the stairs? Is it her knees? Is it her back? Her body is complaining about something. And this story warns that she and her house are not in harmony. She doesn't say to herself, the stairs are getting to be an obstacle. Instead, she makes an alternate plan. I'll mail it tomorrow. It's understandable because our abilities may change slowly and not dramatically. We just adapt. So Margaret says, I'll mail the package tomorrow. If it gets too hard to make even one round trip up and down the stairs, she may entertain the idea of getting a chairlift installed. Before she commits to spending a lot on a chairlift, maybe she should talk with her doctor about physical therapy. Perhaps she could strengthen her body. Adaptations can make the house safer and more useful and allow you to stay there throughout retirement. However, adaptations have a price tag. Here's a critical thought. How much can Margaret withdraw from her retirement money to install a chairlift? Right now, I'm going to stop talking for a few seconds so that you can take a mental tour of your home and imagine, for the purpose of this exercise, that you plan to stay in your home and imagine that your physical abilities decline. What adaptations might you need to make it so that you could stay there? Jot down any adaptations that would be needed if you or your spouse had to use, say, a wheelchair, walker, a cane. I'll pause very briefly here for you to write down your ideas. Did you write down some adaptations to your house? Then the next step is getting an estimate for the cost of the changes. For instance, adding grab bars in the shower area might cost a few $100s, but adding a chairlift might cost thousands of dollars. Just like Terry and Margaret, you will need to identify any needed changes and their costs. How much could you afford to spend to adapt your house with better kitchen shelving, ramps, renovations of bathrooms, chairlifts, or whatever else is needed so that you can stay in your home? Where would the money come from? If you reduce the size of your retirement portfolio to adapt the house, will you have enough money to pay your daily expenses? If you take out a home equity line, you'll have another expense to pay. Can you manage that? If you're planning to age in place, paying to adapt your house may be a risk you did not focus on or save for. As I said earlier, aging in place is not a risk-free choice. But if you think ahead and allow yourself to imagine how the house could serve you, even if your abilities change, then you can save and make plans and make adaptations possible. You will make it possible to stay in your beloved home. For many homeowners, a tug of war can develop between the needs of the house and the needs of your retirement money. I've just made you a referee between two personalities. One is a thrifty personality and the other is a spender. Your retirement money needs to be spent in an orderly fashion to cover your daily expenses and to last throughout your retirement years. The thrifty one, your retirement money, is constantly provoked by the house, the spender. The house continually needs fixing and has emergencies. The hot water heater breaks. A snowstorm builds up thick ice on a tree limb and the branch crashes into the roof. The needs of a house are like the appetite of a hungry teenager who is always looking for food. In satisfying the needs of the house, will you run out of money for the needs of your daily living? Will you run out of money? Whew. That's a frightening question, but a reality for some people. Here's what can happen. Like the gradual physical changes experienced by Terry and Margaret, gradual financial changes can move you from managing to struggling. Let me tell you about Clara, who I recently worked with. She's in her 70s, widowed and living in a classic colonial-style house where they had raised their 2 children. It has 9 spacious rooms. But when I met her, she was sitting in the living room in a corner on the couch, wrapped in 5 blankets. Why? She had turned down the heat to save money. She used a space heater to stay warm. She couldn't invite anyone in because the house was cold and they would know something was wrong. She would wait until summer to allow people in. She was proud and embarrassed. Her son, who lived far from her, surprised her with a visit. Oh, he quickly discovered what she had so cleverly kept secret. And he convinced his mother to talk with me. Clara and I had talked for hours and days, and I was able to get at the root emotional and financial causes of the problems. I showed her 3 options, and she chose one that restored her dignity, social life, and financial stability, and allowed her to stay in her home. Her grateful son credited my years of experience and empathy as what turned around what was a dangerous downhill trajectory. He called me because he had known me to be a financial planner committed to retirees living well and making life-affirming financial and emotional choices. The card on the orchid he sent me said, "You gave her a new lease on life and the heat's turned up. Thanks." You may think that Clara's story is extreme and unique, but it isn't. You may say that such a thing could never happen to you. Clara would have said the same thing. The changes that brought her to such a condition were small and seemingly manageable, but cumulatively, they were dramatic. Life had been manageable for Clara, but subtle changes mounted up, forcing her to live below her expectations. She could have run out of money. I'm committed to helping you avoid falling into a life below your expectations. Here's another example. Jimmy's life was humming along, and then there was a bad snowstorm. An icy tree limb broke and crashed into the roof. It damaged not only the roof, but the insulation, the bedroom ceiling, and personal belongings. Jimmy is prudent, and his insurance covered most of the damage, but not everything. He paid the difference and counted himself lucky for having the reserves he needed. A good outcome, but here's the problem. What Jimmy did not do is review what the house has been costing him in the last few years. Many homeowners find a way to cover needed expenses, but fail to see the trend in expenses and the impact on their retirement money. Like Jimmy, other retirees pull more money out of their retirement money to cover things like rising real estate taxes, heating bills, but they do not evaluate these three things. One, what does the house cost to operate, repair, and maintain? What does it cost to run your lifestyle? How much more can your retirement money produce in income and growth? These three things are critical to your staying in your home. So I'm going to repeat them. You need to know, what does the house cost to operate, repair, and maintain? What does it cost to run your lifestyle? And three, how much more money can your retirement money produce in income and in growth? If you have solid answers to those three questions, bravo, you're in a select group. If you have rough estimates, well, you're moving in the right direction, but you're blocking your best outcome. If you do not have those answers, you can and should develop them. I'll show you a free way to construct those answers. No cost, no obligation, free. If you do not keep track of the answers to these three questions, you might turn a reasonably good financial situation into a worrisome financial situation in which you run out of money. Please, if you take nothing else away from this talk, do accept the idea that you need this information. By knowing accurate numbers for the cost of your house, the cost of your lifestyle, and the capabilities of your retirement money, you are helping yourself stay in your home and not be pushed out by expenses and lower house prices. Lower house prices. Perhaps you did not expect me to say that. Not knowing these numbers could lower the value of your house. Yeah, but this is how that plays out. Suppose, because of the tug of war between the needs of the house and the needs of your daily expenses, you decide not to repair the house, cut back on house maintenance, so that instead of repairing the windowsills that are showing signs of rot and caulking the windows and painting the exterior, etc., you ignore and postpone some items. The result is that the house is not kept up as well as it should be. However, you're feeling better because you're holding on to your retirement money. What happens to the sale price of the house when we don't maintain the house? Could the sale value decline? Could it be lower just at the point when you need to sell? That's a risk you might not be anticipating. The free resource I promised you for getting good answers to the three major questions has forms for cash flow analysis for the house, cash flow analysis for your lifestyle, and provides questions to ask about your portfolio. These resources are free and readily available to you. I created an online course that is free, no cost, no obligation. It's titled, Will I Run Out of Money? Help! The information about logging into the course is going to be in the list that Kendal at Home will send attendees of the seminar. One more way the worksheets can help you is that by completing them, you may open up more choices about how to live and where to live. Have you said to yourself something like, I'm staying in my home. I can't live anyplace else as cheaply? Is that statement true? The house cash flow analysis will gather all the expenses from painting the exterior to tuning up the heating and cooling systems to washing the windows, snow removal, pest control, and over 40 other tasks needed to maintain your house. The total cost may be higher than you expect. Often when I ask my clients what it costs to run the house, they focus on just the big bills like the real estate taxes, heating, lighting. So they forget about the so many smaller routine expenses. Add to the costs of the house the costs of your lifestyle, which includes food and transportation, haircuts, vacations, and more. After you pay for those combined house and lifestyle costs, how much money do you have left each month? If you say I have a lot, bravo, I'm happy for you. If your retirement portfolio pays all your bills and you have a surplus, that's good. Will there still be a surplus when you adjust for rising costs in real estate taxes, food, medical care, and other things? I hope so. Do you still have a surplus after you account for medical care? What I've found over the decades of helping people retire is that their budgets underestimate the cost of healthcare. According to Fidelity Viewpoints, a 65-year-old couple will need about $295,000 in assets to cover healthcare costs. That's the 65-year-old couple needing $295,000 in assets to cover healthcare costs during retirement. That does not include long-term care. Long-term care in the Boston area costs about $13,383 for a month in a semi-private room in a nursing home. So a year might cost $160,600. $160,000. A month in an assisted living or a month of care from home health aid might be between $5,000 and $6,000. Those are from the Genworth Cost of Care Survey 2020. Your retirement money must cover the needs of the house, but also your medical care. Can it do that? Can your portfolio pay out all your bills and then pay out another $5,000 to $13,000 a month? If yes, that's fine. If not, what's your plan if long-term care is needed for you or your loved one? It is possible that your portfolio could do more for you. Maybe it could produce more income. Maybe it could produce more growth. If you do not manage your own portfolio, the course I mentioned earlier, Will I Run Out of Money? Help, sets out questions to ask whoever does manage your retirement money. How much your money in retirement can do for you depends on understanding investments. Are you squashing your portfolio's potential? I'd like to share a study created by a professor at the Stearns Business School at New York University. The professor showed what would happen to two investors had they invested $100 in 1928 before the Great Depression. Each investor wanted to create wealth for the next generations in their families. The conservative person invested $100 in a 3-month treasury bill, and the risk-tolerant investor invested $100 in the S&P 500. The 3-month treasury bill is issued by the US Treasury and is considered among the safest investments. The stock market, as represented by the S&P 500, is an unmanaged index that you cannot invest in directly. And past performance is no guarantee of future results. At the end of 2020, 92 years later, which investor provided the most for their future family? They each invested just $100 and let it grow. Didn't do anything, didn't mess around, didn't buy, sell, nothing. The conservative investor did not lose any principal. What do you guess the conservative investor gifted to the next generation? Go ahead, make a guess. What was it? Well, it was $2,081.82. $2,081.82. The risk-tolerant investor lost money when the market was negative, but gained when the market was favorable. What did the risk-tolerant investor gift to the next generation? Ready to make a guess? The next generation received $592,868.15. $592,868.15. The conservative investor passed on around $2,000 and the risk-tolerant investor nearly $600,000. What type of investor are you? Could you run out of money because you're limiting the growth of your retirement money? Are you too conservative? Are you risk-tolerant but undisciplined? Many retirement portfolios can be improved. Does that apply to yours? If so, ask for help. If you want to stay in your home, if you want to improve your retirement portfolio, then be sure you have reliable answers to what it costs to run your house and your lifestyle and how to expand your retirement portfolio. If you want to stay in your home, consider your safety and how to adapt the house to increase its safety and usefulness. If you want to stay in your home, you'll want to know that long-term care can be brought to your home. You may not have to pay out $5,000 to $13,000 monthly. My latest book, Your Home Sweet Home, How to Decide Whether You Should Stay or Move in Retirement, was recognized by the Eric Hoffer Awards and by Barron's. In it, I cite many alternatives to institutional care. They include the Village Movement, which began here in Boston area, the Beacon Hill Village, and the at-home services that many cities provide to their communities. The function of these programs is to help you stay in home, age in place. You might want to compare how your at-home program in your area compares to Kendal at Home. I had the privilege of interviewing the creative and compassionate executive director of Kendal at Home, Lynn Jacoby. Her powerful insights opened my understanding of how successful a comprehensive, sensitive at-home program can be. Not all of them have the same services or mission or costs, but each of them can offer you something valuable if you want to stay in your home. As I said earlier, the quality of life that you experience in retirement is directly linked to where you live in retirement. Does where you live nurture your most vibrant life? Or is the house sapping your energy and wasting your time? Maintaining the house may be getting to be more work than you want. One family that I interviewed for my book is a multi-generational family. And even with the young people being part of it, the big property and house has gotten to be too much work. So they're looking for a smaller home. It's likely that many of you are not in an intergenerational family of 8 people. It's just you and one other person maintaining the house. Staying in your home may be financially feasible, but maybe you want to do other things with your time. Maybe you don't want to have that continuous list of house projects running in the back of your mind. For most responsible homeowners, that list of projects is always there. It takes a share of their mind. The to-do list reduces their ability to relax. I call that unsettling pull on your attention mind share. How much mind share does your house take from you? Your house costs you in dollars. It costs you time to care for it, and it costs you mind share or attention to endless details. If you want to stay in your home, it will not deplete your retirement, and you enjoy polishing, repairing, and fussing over your castle, then I wish you the happiness of aging in place. Your house is nurturing your best life. However, if your house is taking mind share, dollars, and time, then consider all your alternatives. There are about a half a dozen other choices for types of residences. There's co-housing, and yes, houseboats, cluster housing, shared housing, village model, granny flats, independent living, and more. Your house should nurture your best life. It should be the platform, the set of circumstances, including neighbors, proximity of services, shopping, entertainment, that makes you smile and feel the happiness and warmth of my home, sweet home. How do you know when you should move? If the following issues are piling up, your house may be telling you to move. 1, you're really stressed by increases in major bills like real estate taxes. 2, you're worrying continually about running out of money. 3, the house presents obstacles as you try to go through your routines. Terry's climbing on the step stool to get her favorite stew pot. Margaret's not running upstairs to get the gifts so she could mail it. 4, you're postponing maintenance and repairs because you don't want to take more money out of your retirement portfolio. That was Clara's problem when I met her, as she sat wrapped in those 5 blankets sitting in her cold living room. 5, you pay attention to the sales price of other houses near you. You worry about how much your house would sell for. 6, you feel burdened by the house grabbing so much mind share and time. You no longer want to fuss over your house. If these thoughts take over, you may be better off moving. Moving may give you a fresh start, as it did for Charlotte and Ed, who finally moved after many tries, and they live happily near their children and grandchildren. How you deal with this inflection point, to stay or move, is critical. It has to do with your legacy. What is your legacy? As a financial planner, I will say that your legacy is not about your money. You have a challenge. We each have a challenge. It doesn't matter how much money you have, the state of your health, your level of education, the successes you've had at work, your titles, your awards, your family connections, or your heritage. You have a challenge. We each have a challenge to claim our lives and not be pushed aside because we are no longer willing to make consequential decisions. Some people suppose that if you look old or frail or infirm, you're no longer able to make good choices. And you reinforce their view if you decline to choose where you will live, how you will live. If you decline to speak honestly, thoughtfully, and firmly about what you need and prefer, you support their negative opinion. If friends and family think you cannot manage your finances and you're making poor choices, they may begin to organize and direct and limit your life. Is that fine with you? A life well lived is your legacy. What's the legacy of a life well lived? It is your gift of an example. It is an example of a life lived with courage, integrity, and creativity. These are not the courage, integrity, and creativity that may make headlines, though they could. They're the quiet, unheralded actions and decisions that you have carried out innumerable times. Recall when you might have made a decision about a job change, a medical procedure, a relationship. Did you have all the information you needed before you made the decision? Suppose you or a loved one were slated for an operation. You might have signed an informed consent document that declared you understood the risks of the medical procedure and you accepted them. How well did you understand the risks? Yet you or a loved one needed to go through that operation. And you said yes with a hope and a prayer and went on. You had to change jobs. Did you have all the facts? You knew the hours and the pay, but not the character of the boss, the hostility or kindness of the coworkers, the toxic or supportive atmosphere where you would spend 8 hours a day. It was a creative leap to make the change and to make the best of it. You've made all sorts of decisions that were hard, where there was no easy or right answer. Often, these were small private choices about how to handle personal relationships, how to forgive someone else or yourself, or how to stand up for what you believed was true, right, and decent. Your legacy is about the example you leave to others who know and love you. Your legacy is in your hands now to create and to add to. Your legacy is about how you have made and do make difficult decisions. You don't want to leave your comfortable, familiar house. You don't want to leave the community in which you have a place and standing. You don't want to leave a place of memories. What you do want is to live well all your days. Will your current home nurture you and help you live well? Then stay. If the house has become a place of worry and burden, then it is not a castle. It is imprisoning the best of what your next years can be. It's time to move. Even more important than what you decide to do is how you decide what to do next. Here are some hallmarks of the legacy of a life well lived. Courage. You're willing to evaluate your financial, psychological, emotional, practical realities and make the needed adjustments on your terms. You're not going to wait passively for an accident or illness to make the decisions for you. Yes, you don't know what will befall you, but you can think ahead and prepare for some alternatives. In doing that, you do not shrink from considering hard things. It takes courage and the flexibility to handle unexpected expenses and unwanted and unpredictable events. You've done that all your life. Continue to have that same courage. Integrity. Whether you are in assisted living, using a wheelchair, or living in your home, You maintain your integrity by speaking clearly, honestly, courteously about your needs and preferences. Your words and decisions are who you are and express what you value. Creativity. You invest every day with a sort of creative energy that allows you to embrace new ideas, people, technology, and post-COVID-19, even restaurants and social gatherings. Even if you think you'll never move, give yourself permission to seriously consider what it might be like to start something fresh. I've seen repeatedly the excitement in clients that people who have interviewed when they've stepped into a new living arrangement. They stepped into new life. When you were a teenager, you probably did some risky things that would have turned your parents' hair gray had they known about it. Well, you lived through it and so did they. That teenager is still in you. It may be suppressed by experience, arthritis, and less energy, but the spirit of adventure is in you. You can expand beyond the familiar of what you want. You can invest each day with a sense of adventure if you want. Scrape away the dullness of routine and allow that teenager who is still in you to add some spark to your days. Let that teenager help create your legacy. Your loved ones will be proud of you. Ultimately, not only your decision to move or stay, but how you come to that decision communicates something essential about you, who you are, what your values are. People who love you will learn from the way you think things through. You become a beacon to them. You're showing them how to do something similar. We are inspired by others. If she can make that change, I can do it. If she can take up oil painting at 80, I can learn a new skill. If he had the strength to come back from that bad accident, I can do a little bit more rehab. Wherever you decide to live, whether you decide to move or age in place, protect yourself by being honest about your abilities and make adaptations for safety and use that will keep you active. Protect your retirement money by knowing the costs of your house, your lifestyle, and by understanding how to improve your retirement portfolio. These facts can help you deal with the worry of running out of money in retirement. Keep in mind the professor at NYU telling you $2,000 as a conservative investor and $600,000 as a risk-tolerant investor. Age in place if your home nurtures you. Move if it takes dollars, time, mind share, and adds worry. Let the teenager in you help cultivate your legacy of a life well lived. It is the unique gift that you share with all of us. It's the outcome of your living fully, happily, and wisely. We thank you for it. May you continue to grow, be independent, and enjoy the adventures of your life. Thank you.
Oops. There we go. Penelope, I'm worried about that teenager who's still lurking inside. I thought I got rid of her.
Well,
Oh
it's a good teenager.
Yeah, the good side.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't help but think, oh my gosh, I need to have her talk with my children, because it's so important to be thinking and planning that $100 investment, you know, all these years later, how important and impactful that could be if just a conservative amount of dollars are being set aside to plan for those later years. And as you said, unfortunately, so many of us today are so unprepared for that. But thank you so much. I think we need to have you talking every day about these things with us. It was really informative. We do have a question from David, and he's asking if you have any suggestions about working with real estate or other professionals in selecting a new home. So assuming maybe, and we do see this with our clients often, where it's not that they don't want to remain in their home, they want to remain in a home, but not necessarily the big home they've raised their
Right.
family in, and they're looking at, what options or opportunities might be
Yeah.
available to them. So your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, thank you, David. That's a good question. It is important to work with people who know the whole range of things that are available. As I said, there are things like cluster housing and cooperative housing. So think about what is that would most delight you, what kind of housing would nurture you. I agree that most people do think where I live now is the cheapest place I can live, and that's not necessarily true. David, obviously you realize that there are other options, but don't be looking only, for instance, if you're in a house now to say a condo, there's a bunch of other things. And if you're open to things like cluster housing and cooperative housing, that may be a very sweet choice for you. And real estate agents in your area may be familiar with them, they may be not. You can go online and you can see what's in your area and perhaps visit those places in addition and see if one of those things would work for you.
And so often there are options that can eliminate some of the hardship of remaining in your home, where
Yeah.
homeowners association help with the lawn mowing or the snow removal and those kinds of things that can eliminate some of those barriers to those who do want to remain at home but aren't able or don't want to take care of some of those maintenance issues any longer. So other thoughts? Danielle, did you have any questions or comments that you were thinking as we listened to Penelope? You are such a great speaker and storyteller, right? You feel engaged as if you know these people, and you can definitely relate to the experiences you shared.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought the same thing, Lynn. I was so impressed with your storytelling, Penelope, and just how it made a lot of sense with what you were saying. I can tell you that I'm going through this with my parents right now. And
Mhm.
unfortunately we did not, well, not my choice, but we kind of waited until it was a little too late. So I would encourage everybody that's on this seminar today just to not wait. Do what Penelope says, make your plans, make sure that you know what you're doing, because we're kind of stuck into the nightmare situation that I wouldn't wish on anybody. So
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate your advice and sharing that with everybody here today.
One of the problems, Danielle, I think in opening the conversation is it may seem negative, that if you're starting to say something like that to your parents, they're thinking, oh, you want my money, you want me dead. I mean, sorry, a lot of negative things can happen.
You know.
So what you might do is work from the position of a friend of theirs goes into assisted living or into nursing home, and you say, oh, well, your friend Grace had this happen. What do you think about it? How can we help Grace? Do you know how she came to that decision? So use somebody else they care about as a jump off place, which would be natural to ask about that person and to try to be supportive, and then maybe visit with the lady, visit with her family, talk a little bit, so that you're making the bridge to saying, these are normal things to talk about. I'm not thinking negatively about your future
Right.
mom and dad, auntie, whoever it is, but there's a way to open the conversation. Or even if you hear something on the news or something that you can attach to that makes it come glancingly at it instead of being so threatening, because none of us wants to feel discarded. And I think one of the beautiful things that I got from my conversations with Lynn Jacoby when I was interviewing, and all of what she said didn't get into the book, but much of the gems did, is that sense that when people present themselves as old and frail, the other person says, oh, you're incompetent. No. You're just older and frailer. Your brain is working. That's why I kept emphasizing, articulate who you are. Don't let people bypass you just because you're little sitting on a couch or something. Uh,
Oh, absolutely, Penelope. I appreciate that advice, and I certainly hope that everybody listens, because
yeah,
going through that myself and seeing other people go through it, it's two very different things.
yeah,
As we do that, as we have to embark on that on our own. So
yeah,
I
And
appreciate the advice.
it is so challenging when, as adult children, you take on the caretaker role. It's such a challenging dynamic to navigate. Penelope, I wanted to ask you, you talked about your course, you talked about that being available to people, and we're going to send that information out.
thank you.
As soon as we get the corrected links, we'll get
Right,
that information out to
thank
people.
you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the course? How do people, is it on demand? Will it be
Yeah,
live? Can you
it
share a little
it
bit
is
about it?
right. Thank you. It is on demand, so whenever they want to engage it in whatever units they want to take. So it's very simple to go through. They will have an opportunity to email me throughout it for questions. So I'm making myself much more available than most online courses are. I'm not simply saying, go there, take it, and don't ask me questions. I want people to feel free that I'm there. I want to help them through that. The broader course, sorry, will I run out of money, is really more narrowly focused on investments, because I'm trying to explain what some kinds of investments can and can't do, just as the professor's example about what conservative does as 2,000 against risk tolerant at 600,000. And I try to give a little bit of a synopsis, an example of what the major tools are that people rely on for investing. I try to explain them and help you have questions. If you don't actually handle your own portfolio, these are the questions to ask the person who handles your portfolio. So I try to draw that out and give you step-by-step stuff that's there. And of course, the critical difference is I invite you to email me.
Great. That's so important to know the right questions to ask, especially if you
Yeah.
don't have any expertise in that area. You're putting your trust in someone to make those decisions for you without a lot of understanding. It's really critical. One
Yeah.
other question I had, Penelope, you as we started out, you talked about your work in financial planning and helping people to really prepare and think through. And what I really admire about you and the work you do is that you are thinking about the whole picture. And we talked about this earlier. So many people are planning for retirement, but really don't think about that long-term care component,
Right.
or they also think their options are so limited. And I think you gave so many great examples of really stretching that thinking. How do you work, how are you working with folks? You said you can work with people basically anywhere in the United States.
Right.
How does it work? How does someone get in touch with you? How can they work with you? What does that look like?
Sure. They can easily email me, Penelope, at Wealthy Choices with an S, choices.com. And I'm happy to open a conversation. I do hold licenses in all 50 states, which is very unusual for a financial planner, because when I was touring the books and doing the radio shows and the television shows, I was concerned to make sure that I was available if somebody had a question. And that's how our industry works. You have to be licensed all over. So please do feel free to ask a question. I think you judge from the way I've spoken so far that I'm not looking to corner someone in a sales situation. I'm here really to help. So if I can help, I'm happy to do that. It's unusual for someone to have the expertise that I have. The book I've written on long-term care, the fact that I have a real estate license, the fact that I'm a full financial planner who does all of the kinds of investments, insurances, and everything else. It's an unusual group of things to have as a background. So I'm more sensitive to the issues that you brought up, Lynn, because I've seen them. And my own mom, the reason I wrote the long-term care book is because, Danielle, we were in worst case. We were three college-educated kids, didn't get what was happening to mom, did not understand it one bit. We were just blindsided by it. And it was pretty painful. It was pretty painful. She was of an age and at a time that there was no other option other than we sold the house that she lived in, and that supported her for many years because it was prudently handled. But yeah, it was just painful. Danielle, I sympathize with what you're going through. It's wicked hard.
It really is. And sometimes it's so easy to be in denial when you're looking at your own parents and your loved ones. It is such a challenge. I think that you're right about that. I hate for our time to end. I really do. I always enjoy talking with you, Penelope. I
Thank you.
know, David, you were asking, and I'm sorry, because I don't know how to turn, I can probably turn my camera around, but turn this around. But the name of Penelope's book is Your Home Sweet Home, How to Decide Whether You Should Stay or Move in Retirement. And you can get that on Amazon. I know, Penelope, we're going to send information out following this session. So we'll make sure to have that information in the link so that in that email, so you'll have that information available to you. And for those that are watching it on demand or on our Facebook Live channel, please feel free to reach out to us here at Kendal at Home, and we'll be happy to share Penelope's information with you. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's so good to see you. And I hope you'll come back and visit with us again and talk with our colleagues who are here trying to navigate this treacherous sometimes journey in long-term care. So Penelope, thank you so much. And Danielle,
Thank you.
thanks for your help as well.
Thank you for the
all of
opportunity.
those- Oh, we are so grateful to have you. And for all those who were with us today, we appreciate you joining us, and thank you. And then this will be live on our website. There'll be a recording on our website in just a couple of days. There's Tilly. We get to see her now. She's joining us. And it'll be on, the recording will be up on our Facebook page as well. Oh, that's a
she
great
is.
way to end.